Before we step inside tonight's mansion, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments, what city or country are you watching from? Because this story begins with a maid chained to a serving cart, and ends with one missing key exposing a secret buried for 27 years. Unlock me. Aaliyah Grant's voice carried across the Ellison ballroom, though she barely raised it. 180 guests stood beneath glass chandeliers and towering arrangements of white roses. The string quartet had stopped playing. Champagne remained frozen halfway to expensive lips. At the center of the room, the 30-year-old black maid stood handcuffed to an antique silver serving cart. One cuff circled her right wrist. The other had been locked around the cart's brass handle. Across from her, Daphne Carrington held up an empty velvet jewelry box. "She stole my grandmother's emerald pendant," Daphne announced. "I found the box inside her apron." A wave of shocked whispers moved through the ballroom. Aaliyah stared at the billionaire's fiancé. That box was planted. Daphne's expression remained elegant and calm. Her midnight blue gown glittered beneath the lights, and the diamond ring on her left hand seemed designed to remind everyone whose future name she would soon carry. "Of course you would say that. I never entered your bedroom. You serve in this house. You enter every room." Aaliyah pulled once against the cuff. The metal cut deeper into her skin. "Where is the key?" Daphne looked toward the security guards standing near the ballroom doors. "It appears to be missing." Several guests shifted uncomfortably. Aaliyah understood then. This was not an accusation meant to end quietly in a private office. Daphne wanted her displayed. Trapped beside the cart. Humiliated in front of donors, executives, and the same household staff who had spent months pretending not to see how Daphne treated her when Roman Ellison was away. Aaliyah raised her voice. "If you truly believed I stole the pendant, you would have called the police before putting me in handcuffs." Daphne stepped closer. "I wanted everyone to see what kind of woman Roman has been defending." The name caused Aaliyah's pulse to quicken. Roman Ellison was supposed to be in Chicago until morning. Daphne knew that. She had planned the confrontation for the one evening he would not be there to stop it. Or so she believed. A man's voice came from behind the guests. Defending her from what? The crowd separated. Roman Ellison stood near the west entrance, still wearing the charcoal coat he had traveled in. At 40, he was known for rebuilding his family's failing hotel company into an international luxury empire. But in that moment, he did not look like a billionaire returning to his own gala. He looked like a man who had walked into the middle of a crime. Daphne's confidence flickered. "Roman. You weren't expected until tomorrow. I noticed." His eyes moved to Aaliyah's cuffed wrist. Then to the serving cart. Then to the red mark forming beneath the metal. What happened? Daphne crossed the room quickly. She stole the Carrington emerald. Security found the box on her. Roman looked at Aaliyah. "Did they search you?" "Daphne searched me herself." "Where was security?" "Outside the room." Roman's gaze returned to his fiancée. "Why did you handcuff her?" "She tried to run." "No, I didn't," Aaliyah said. Daphne turned sharply. "You moved toward the service exit. I was ordered to bring this cart into the ballroom." Roman stepped closer to the antique cart. It had belonged to his late mother, Helena Ellison, and had not been used in nearly 20 years. A silver plaque on its side carried the name of the family's first hotel. The Ellison House, 1948. "Why is this cart here?" he asked. Daphne hesitated. "It was part of the heritage display." "No." The heritage curator specifically excluded it because the lower compartment was damaged. Aaliyah looked at him. "That compartment isn't damaged." Daphne's face changed. "Only for a second." But Roman saw it. "What do you mean?" he asked. Aaliyah nodded toward the cart's lower shelf. I was polishing it this afternoon when the panel opened. There were old staff ledgers inside. Before I could examine them, Miss Carrington entered and ordered me to bring the cart here. Daphne laughed. She was caught searching private family property. I was assigned to clean it. Roman crouched beside the cart. The lower panel sat slightly crooked. Fresh scratches marked the lock, and a thin strip of aged paper protruded from the opening. Daphne moved toward him. Roman, this is becoming ridiculous. The emerald is missing, and its box was found on her. He ignored her. Where is the handcuff key? I told you. It's missing. Roman stood. His attention shifted to the velvet box in Daphne's hand. A narrow gold ribbon had been tied around it. The ribbon bore Helena Ellison's initials. H.E. His mother had used identical ribbons to mark keys connected to the hotel's private archive. Roman took the jewelry box from Daphne. What are you doing? He turned it over. A tiny object rattled inside the false lining. Roman pressed the velvet base. It lifted. The missing handcuff key lay beneath it. No one in the ballroom spoke. Daphne's face went pale. Roman held up the key. You said this box was found in Aaliyah's apron. It was. Then how did the key you claimed was missing end up hidden inside it? Daphne's lips parted. No answer came. Roman unlocked Aaliyah's wrist first. She winced as the metal released. He examined the injury, then handed the cuffs to his security chief. Do not let anyone leave. Daphne stared at him. You cannot detain 200 guests over the word of a maid. This is not about her word anymore. Roman opened the cart's lower panel. Inside were 6 leather-bound ledgers, a faded photograph, and a sealed envelope addressed in Helena Ellison's handwriting. Across the front were 7 words. For Roman, when the Carringtons come back. Roman froze. Aaliyah looked at Daphne. The fiancée was no longer staring at the missing pendant. She was staring at the envelope. And for the first time that night, everyone saw what real fear looked like. Roman did not open the envelope in the ballroom. He looked at the 200 guests, then at the security guards standing near every exit. The gala is suspended, he announced. No photographs, recordings, or messages leave this room until my security team confirms what happened. Several guests immediately protested. Daphne stepped toward him. You cannot treat our friends like criminals. Roman's eyes remained on the envelope. One of my employees was publicly restrained with a key hidden inside evidence supposedly found on her. Until I understand who arranged that, everyone stays. Aaliyah rubbed the red mark around her wrist. The room felt colder now that the applause, music, and polite laughter had disappeared. People who had watched her humiliation in silence suddenly avoided her eyes. Roman turned toward his security chief, Malcolm Price. Take Miss Grant to the library. Have the house physician examine her wrist. I don't need a doctor, Aaliyah said. You were handcuffed to a metal cart. I'm all right. Roman looked at her carefully. No, you're composed. That isn't the same thing. Daphne's jaw tightened. Even now, with the pendant still missing and the ballroom full of witnesses, Roman's concern remained fixed on the maid she had tried to disgrace. Aaliyah followed Malcolm toward the library. As she passed Daphne, the fiancé whispered, You should have left the cart closed. Aaliyah stopped. What are you afraid is inside those ledgers? Daphne's face remained still. Your unemployment record, if you're fortunate. Roman heard the exchange. So there is something in them. Daphne turned toward him. I was making a threat because she accused me. No. You were answering a question. He handed the sealed envelope to Malcolm. Place this in my office safe. Nobody opens it until I'm present. Daphne's eyes followed it across the room. That reaction stayed with Aaliyah. 10 minutes later, she sat inside the Ellison library while Dr. Warren cleaned the cut on her wrist. "The skin is bruised but not fractured," he said. "Keep it wrapped for 24 hours. Aaliyah nodded. Roman stood near the fireplace with the old photograph taken from the cart. It showed 12 hotel employees outside the original Ellison house. The date written beneath it was March 1997. A younger Helena Ellison stood in the center. Beside her was a dark-haired woman wearing a housekeeping uniform. The woman resembled Aaliyah. Not slightly. Enough that Roman had looked from the photograph to her 3 times without speaking. Finally, he held it out. "Do you know her?" Aaliyah took the photograph. Her breath stopped. "That's my grandmother." Roman moved closer. "You're certain?" "Her name was Ruth Grant. She died when I was 13. Aaliyah pointed to the silver brooch pinned to the woman's collar. "I have that brooch at home." Roman turned the photograph over. Names had been written across the back. Helena Ellison. Ruth Grant. Victor Carrington. The third name belonged to Daphne's grandfather. Below them, Helena had written one sentence. "The 3 of us know what happened in Suite 312. Roman read it twice. Daphne, who had insisted on accompanying them, stood near the doorway. "This is absurd," she said. Old hotel employees took hundreds of photographs. "Victor Carrington wasn't an employee," Roman replied. "He was my grandfather's business partner." "And Ruth Grant cleaned rooms," Daphne said. "That does not make her part of some grand conspiracy." Aaliyah looked at her. "You knew her name before Roman read it." Daphne's expression changed. "Only slightly. But everyone noticed. I recognized it from the ledgers." "The ledgers are still closed," Roman said. Silence filled the library. Daphne corrected herself quickly. "Then I must have seen it in the heritage records." Roman placed the photograph on the desk. "You told me the Carrington family had no connection to the Ellison hotels before our engagement." "We didn't. Your grandfather is standing beside my mother at the first hotel." Daphne folded her arms. "Families cross paths. That proves nothing." Roman looked toward Malcolm. "Bring the ledgers." Minutes later, 6 leather books were arranged across the library table. The oldest contained hotel payroll records, guest complaints, repairs, and private payments. Most entries were ordinary. Then Aaliyah found the first unusual line. "Suite 312 permanently closed after incident. Compensation issued through Carrington Holdings." The amount was enormous. Roman opened the next ledger. A second payment had been made to Ruth Grant. But beside her name, someone had written, "Returned in full." Refused silence. Aaliyah stared at the words. "My grandmother never had money." Roman turned another page. A note in Helena's handwriting appeared beneath a list of renovation expenses. Ruth witnessed Victor carrying the child from Suite 312. The official report is false. Daphne reached across the table and slammed the ledger shut. "That is enough." Roman looked at her hand resting on the cover. "Why? These records are incomplete. Your mother was ill during her final years. My mother wrote this 14 years before she became sick." Daphne pulled her hand back. Aaliyah felt a chill move through her. "What child?" Nobody answered. Roman opened the final ledger. The pages connected to Suite 312 had been cut out with a blade. But one narrow piece remained near the binding. A partial sentence could still be read. "The Carrington infant was declared dead at." The rest was missing. Daphne stepped away from the table. Roman looked at her. "Was there a child in your family who died at the Ellison house?" "No." "You answered too quickly." There was no child. Aaliyah remembered the missing emerald pendant. Maybe the pendant wasn't stolen because of its value. Roman turned toward her. What do you mean? Daphne used the empty box to frame me. But we still don't know where the pendant is. Aaliyah picked up the photograph again. Around Ruth Grant's neck was a chain carrying the same emerald pendant Daphne claimed belonged to her grandmother. Roman saw it too. That pendant belonged to your family, he asked Aaliyah. I've never seen it before. Daphne moved toward the door. This conversation is over. Malcolm blocked her path. Roman's voice remained calm. No. It is finally beginning. Then Malcolm's radio crackled. A guard's urgent voice came through. Mr. Ellison, we searched Miss Carrington's suite. Roman lifted the radio. What did you find? A nursery bracelet hidden inside the pendant case. The library went silent. The guard continued. It bears the surname Grant. Aaliyah slowly looked at Daphne. The fiancé's face had lost all color. And this time, she did not deny knowing why. The nursery bracelet arrived inside a clear evidence bag. Malcolm placed it on the library table beside the ledgers, the old photograph, and the empty emerald case. The bracelet was faded yellow plastic, the kind hospitals used decades earlier. Most of the ink had disappeared, but one line remained legible. Baby Grant. Aaliyah stared at it. My grandmother never told me about a baby. Daphne stood near the door, her face rigid. Roman picked up the evidence bag. Where exactly was this found? Malcolm answered, inside a false compartment beneath the velvet lining of the pendant case. The same kind of compartment used to hide the handcuff key, Aaliyah said. Roman looked at Daphne. You prepared both boxes. She crossed her arms. You have no proof of that. The key was hidden inside evidence you claimed came from Aaliyah's apron. Someone could have placed it there. Who? Daphne glanced toward the staff standing outside the library. Any of them. Aaliyah shook her head. This was never about a stolen pendant. You needed a reason to search me and take the cart away before Roman opened the lower compartment. Daphne's eyes sharpened. You think you understand everything because your grandmother appears in one photograph? No, Aaliyah replied. I think you handcuffed me because Ruth Grant refused to stay silent 27 years ago, and you were afraid I might do the same. Roman slowly opened the oldest ledger again. He read Helena's handwritten note aloud. Ruth witnessed Victor carrying the child from Suite 312. The official report is false. Then he looked at the hospital bracelet. What official report? Malcolm removed a tablet from his jacket. I asked the archive team to search the hotel's insurance records. Suite 312 was closed after an electrical fire in March 1997. Aaliyah frowned. A fire. The report states that no guests were inside. Roman looked toward the cut pages. But there was an infant. Malcolm nodded. There is also a private settlement connected to a physician named Dr. Samuel Voss. He signed the infant's death certificate. Where is he now? Roman asked. Retired. Living outside Albany. Daphne laughed softly. You're rebuilding an entire crime from damaged records and the word of dead employees. Roman's expression hardened. My mother preserved these records because she expected someone to need them. He opened the sealed envelope Helena had addressed to him. Daphne moved suddenly. Don't. Roman stopped. The single word carried more fear than anything she had said that night. He broke the seal. Inside were 2 handwritten pages and a small brass key taped beneath the fold. Roman read in silence at first. Then his face changed. What does it say? Aaliyah asked. He handed her the first page. Roman. If the Carrington family returns to this house, open Suite 312 before trusting anything they tell you. Ruth Grant protected a child that Victor intended to erase. I helped her, but I was too afraid to expose my father and his partner publicly. The second page continued. The infant declared dead did not die. Ruth took her from the hotel before Victor could remove her permanently. The emerald pendant was placed around the child's neck so one day she could be identified. Aaliyah's hands began to tremble. The baby survived. Roman looked toward the pendant in the photograph around Ruth's neck. Your grandmother had it because she carried the child away. Daphne pressed both hands against the back of a chair. That letter proves nothing about me. Roman lifted the brass key. It says Suite 312 still contains the original hospital record. Daphne stepped backward. Suite 312 no longer exists. Roman stared at her. How do you know? Her silence exposed the mistake. The original Ellison house had been renovated twice. Suite numbers had changed, and no public floor plan showed the old arrangement. Only someone familiar with the hidden history would know the room had supposedly been removed. Aaliyah looked at the bracelet again. What happened to the baby after Ruth took her? Roman returned to the letter. There's one final line. He read it aloud. The child was raised under Ruth's family name. She must never know the Carringtons were searching for her until Victor is gone. Every face in the library turned toward Aaliyah. She felt the air leave her lungs. My mother was Ruth's only daughter. Roman's voice softened. How old was she in 1997? 6 months. Daphne closed her eyes. That was answer enough. Aaliyah stared at her. My mother was the baby from Suite 312. Daphne whispered, you were never supposed to find out. The room went silent. Roman stepped toward her. So you knew. My grandfather told me before he died. Who were the child's real parents? Daphne shook her head. I won't say. Roman held up the brass key. Then we opened the room. Malcolm led them through the west corridor toward the oldest section of the mansion. Behind a restored mural, the brass key opened a narrow concealed door. A dark passage appeared. At the end stood a faded hotel number .312. But the door was already open. Inside, shelves had been emptied and papers burned in a metal bin. Someone had reached the room before them. Then a voice came from the darkness. You should have left the maid chained to the cart. An elderly man stepped forward holding the missing emerald pendant. Victor Carrington was still alive. Victor Carrington stood inside the hidden room as though he had been waiting for them. At 82, he was thinner than the man in the old photograph, but his posture remained straight and his eyes held the same cold authority. The missing emerald pendant hung from his fingers, its green stone catching the weak light from the corridor. Daphne whispered, "Grandfather." Roman looked at her sharply. "You told me he was dead." "He was supposed to be." Victor gave a dry laugh. "Death is often easier to arrange than silence." Malcolm reached for his radio. Victor lifted a small remote. "Call anyone, and the remaining records burn." A red light blinked beneath the shelves. Aaliyah smelled fuel. Several glass containers had been placed behind the damaged ledgers, each connected to a thin wire. Victor had prepared the room to disappear. Roman stepped in front of Aaliyah. "You framed her grandmother, stole a child, and hid inside my family's property for 27 years. Victor looked at him almost kindly. "Your family helped. My mother tried to protect the baby. Helena developed a conscience too late." Aaliyah stared at the pendant. "Who were my mother's real parents?" Victor's expression changed. Not guilt. Annoyance. "You have Ruth Grant's persistence. She saved my mother from you. She stole what belonged to the Carrington family. A child does not belong to a family name, Aaliyah said. Victor's eyes hardened. That infant was the legal heir to half of Carrington Holdings. Roman understood first. The baby's father was your son. Daphne closed her eyes. Victor remained silent. Aaliyah looked toward her. Which son? Daphne spoke before Victor could stop her. My father. The words struck Aaliyah like a physical blow. Daphne continued, her voice trembling. Your mother and I were half-sisters. The hidden room became completely silent. Aaliyah stared at the woman who had handcuffed her in front of 200 guests. You knew I was related to you. I knew Ruth raised the baby under her name. I didn't know whether your mother was alive until I investigated you. That is why you hired me. Daphne looked away. Roman turned toward her. You arranged Aaliyah's employment. I suggested her agency to the housekeeper. I needed to know whether Ruth had left her anything. The pendant, Aaliyah said. And the records, Daphne admitted. Grandfather believed Ruth hid proof in the cart. Victor stepped toward her. You have said enough. No, Daphne replied. I spent my entire life cleaning up your crimes. You benefited from them. So did you. Roman watched them turn on each other. What happened in Suite 312? Victor's grip tightened around the pendant. My son had an affair with a hotel employee. When the child was born, the mother threatened to expose him and demand part of the company. Aaliyah's voice became unsteady. What happened to her? Victor did not answer. Daphne did. She died in the fire. Aaliyah looked toward the burned records. The fire, the official report said, happened in an empty room. Victor's face remained emotionless. It was an accident. No, Aaliyah whispered. You locked her inside. Roman moved toward Victor. The old man pressed the remote. A spark flashed near the rear shelf. Flames climbed the fuel-soaked wood. Malcolm pulled the nearest extinguisher from the corridor while Roman lunged for Victor's hand. The remote fell, sliding beneath a cabinet. Daphne grabbed the emerald pendant. Victor seized her wrist. You foolish girl. She struck him across the face. For the first time, the old man lost balance. Aaliyah reached for the pendant, but the burning shelf collapsed between them. Smoke filled the narrow room. Everyone out. Malcolm shouted. Roman pulled Aaliyah toward the passage. Daphne followed, still clutching the emerald, while two guards dragged Victor behind them. Then Aaliyah heard a metallic click beneath the flames. A hidden drawer had sprung open from the heat. Inside lay a birth certificate protected by a steel case. Roman grabbed it seconds before the ceiling beam crashed down. They escaped into the corridor as fire consumed Suite 312. Roman opened the steel case. The certificate named Aaliyah's mother. But beneath the father's signature was not a Carrington name. It read, Roman Ellison Sr. Roman stared at it. Aaliyah's mother had not been Daphne's half-sister. She had been Roman's.